Hello students, today we are considering gradient of a curve. Gradient of a curve. Draw the graph of y equals 1 over 4x squared for values of x from -2 to +3. Find the gradient of the curve at the point where x has the value 2 and -1. So first of all, we must draw this graph of y equals 1 over 4x squared. So before we draw the graph, we must first of all do the table. So the equation we are given is the equation for y equals 1 over 4x squared. 1 times x squared is same thing as y equals x squared over 4. This is the equation now. We are told that we should make the values of x from -2 to +3. So you are going to make the value of x from -2 to +3. That means when x is -1, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. So you now be looking for the corresponding value for y. So to get the corresponding value for y, you will be substituting the value of x when x is into this equation to get the corresponding value for y. So when x is what? -2, you are going to substitute here. So that means -2 squared over 4 is equal to -2 squared is what? -2 times -2 is what? +4 divided by 4. 4 divided by 4 will give us 1. So that means to be what? When x is -2, y is +1. When x is -1, we have to substitute. So that means we have a -1 squared. In place of x, put -1 squared over 4. Then -1 squared is what? -1 times -1 is 1 over 4. 1 divided by 4 will give you 0.25. So 0.25. When x is 0, what will be the value for y? So 0 squared over 4. So 0 squared is what? 0. 0 divided by 4 will give you what? That will give us what? 0. So that means 0. Then when x is what? 1, what will be the value for y? So when x is 1, what will be the value for y? So substitute 1 for x. 1 square over 4. 1 square is what? 1 over 4. So that means 1 over 4 is 0.25. When x is 2, what will be the value for? In place of x, put 2 square over 4. 2 square is 4 divided by 4. 4 divided by 4 is what? 1. Then when x is what? 3. 3 square divided by 4. 3 square is 9 divided by 4. 9 divided by 4 is what? 2.2. 2.2. So that means you are going to fill this table when x, the value for x and y. When x is -2 to 3. That means y will be 1, 0.25, 0, 0.251, and 2.5. So we are now going to plot the graph. So when you plot the graph, when x, for the graph, I'm going to use the value 2 cm to represent 2 units on the x-axis, 2 cm for 2 units on the x-axis, and 2 cm for 0.5 units on the y-axis. So this is 0.51, 1.52, 2.5. So now the first part says when x is what? -1, y is 1. When x is -2, rather, when x is -2 here, y is +1 here. So realize that the two of them meet here. When the next one, when x is -1, y is 0.5. x is -1 here, y is 0.25. So 0.25 is in between 0.5, so it should be here. So you trace it, both of them meet here. Then when x is 0, y is 0 will be at the origin here. Then when x is 1, y is 0.25. So this 1 and y is 0. They meet here. When x is 2, y is 1. And x is 2, y is 1. Both of them meet here. Then when x is 3, y is 2.25. So this is 3, this is 2.25. They both meet here. Now, you now use it to draw the curve. So we've been able to draw the curve of of y equals 1 over 4x squared. Then the second part of the question is the gradient part, which says that find the gradient of the curve at the point where x has the value 2. Now, we first of all do this one when x has the value 2. When x has the value 2, what will be the gradient of the point? So this is what you are going to do. So where is the on x? This is 2 on x. You trace it to the graph where it meets this curve. So it meets the curve at this point here. So at that point, you will now pick a straight ruler and draw a line. Make sure the line you are drawing does not enter inside the curve, and you make sure it will touch this curve up, and it will touch it. It will touch this curve. It will touch it evenly, and so that you've now used it to form a straight line. Make sure it touches that curve evenly to be able to look for the gradient at that point. So at this point, you will now draw a line like this. So I've been able to draw my line. You try to make the line as large as possible. You are doing this so that you have an accurate answer. You'll be able to make an accurate answer. So you do it as large as possible. Then on this line, you draw a right angle triangle. Let it start from the line. So I'm going to draw a right angle triangle. So like this. From this line, it meets it at this point, and it's meeting it at this point also. So I'll draw the right angle triangle here. So at this coordinates, so what will be the value for my x and y? So the coordinate here will be, this is x is what? 3.5, when y is what? 2.75. At this coordinate, x is what? 3.5, when y is what? If you look at the value for y, it will give us 2.75. Then at this coordinate, the value of x and y will be, when x is what? 1 here, y is what? Minus 0.25. Y is what? Minus 0.25. So it is these two coordinates we now use to do the gradients. Now the two coordinates I'm having are 3.5 and 2.75. Then the other coordinate is when x is 1, y is minus 0.25. So I can make this one my x1, y1, and this one my x2, y2. So you now substitute into the formula for the gradient. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So my y2 is what? Minus 0.25. Then minus x2 is what? 2.75 over my x2 is 1 minus my y1 is what? 3.5. So we now have what? You having minus 0.25 minus 2.75. That will give us minus 3.0 divided by 1 minus 2.5. That will give us minus 1 minus 3.5 will give us minus 2.5. So minus divided by minus will be plus. So this same thing as saying 3 divided by 2.5. So 3 divided by 2.5 will give us 1.2. So it means that the gradient of the line when x is what? Is 2 is what? Gradient of the line when x is what? 2 is 1.2. Then the second part says that find the gradient when x is what? Minus 1. Find the gradient when x is minus 1. So it is on this same graph you are going to use. You will come to when x is minus 1. This is x minus 1. What will be the gradient here? So now on this plane, on this is x minus 1, you trace to the curve, it means the curve here. So you now draw a line. Make sure the line didn't enter inside the curve you have drawn, and it touches the curve evenly at the line that is attached to that point. So make sure you touch it evenly, and try to draw the curve, the line, as long as possible. So that means you can have something like this. So you are drawing it to be large as possible so that you have the solution will be accurate. Now you now try to what? You now try to draw a right angle triangle on this line. You are going to pick 2 points on this line, such that you pick the coordinates. So I want to try to get the one that will be easier for me. Now, okay, let me pick this. So you are having this. Draw a right angle triangle like this, then it will touch the line at this point. So then I will, for at this coordinate, the value of my x is minus 3, y is 4. If this is what? 1, this is 1.25. So that means I'm having what? 1 and so if this is so here I'm having 1. The value for my y here is what? 1.15. Then here, if I look for the value for x here, the value of x here, if I trace it to this x axis, I'm having 1.3, and the value for y here is what? Is 0.7 minus 0.75 minus 0.75. So when the slope when x is equal to minus 1, so the two coordinates I'm taking there are, that is, I'm having minus 3 and 1.15, and I'm having 1.3 and minus 0.75. So to be able to do that, I'm now have what? I can make this one my x1, y1. This is x2, y2. So you are now going to what? To use the formula m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So our y2 is what? Our y2 is minus 0.75 minus x2 is what? My x1 rather is what? Minus 1.15 over, then my x2 is what? 1.3, then minus this minus x1 is what? Minus 3. So that means I'm having minus 0.75 minus 1.15, which will give us minus 1.90, give us minus 1.90. So you have 1.3 minus 3, minus times minus is plus. 1.3 plus 3 will give us 4.3. So we can see that when we look for the gradient, when x is what? 2, the gradient is 1.2. And when we look for the gradient, when x is what? Is minus 1, the gradient is minus 0.44. So for your work practice, you are going to do this. A. Copy and complete the table below for the relation y equals 3x minus 3x squared. So you are going to look for the value for x when x is from -1 to +4. So you are going to fill in the gap. Then now say B, draw the graph of y equals 3x squared minus x squared from -1 to +4 using a scale of 2 cm to 1 unit on both axes. C, find the gradient of the curve at 1 when x is 0, then 2 when x is what? 2. Then D, write down the equation of the line of symmetry of the curve. E, find the maximum value of x squared, 3x minus x squared. Then for number 2, you are having copy and complete the table below, giving values for the function y equals 2x squared minus 4x plus 3 from x is equal to -2 to +4. Then you are to copy and complete this. This is the table. You have this to be the table. When x is from -2 to +4, you are going to do this. Then you now have draw the graph of y equals 2x squared minus 4x plus 3 using a scale of 2 cm to 1 unit on the x-axis and 1 cm to 2 units on the y-axis. From the graph, find A, the equation of the line of symmetry of the curve. B, the gradient of the curve at when x is equal to 3. C, the minimum value of y. Number 3, the incomplete table below is for the relation y equals 2x squared minus 5x plus 1. This is the table. Then A, copy and complete the table. B, using a scale of 2 cm to represent 1 unit on the x-axis and 2 cm to represent 10 units on the y-axis. Draw the relation y equals 2x squared minus 5x plus 1 for values of x from -3 to 5. Then C, find the gradient of the curve at point x is equal to 3.5. Please ensure you like, subscribe and comment on this video. Thank you.